of California, at the end of the day, they have a responsibility to elect competent leadership, starting with the governor through the state assembly and into local government. Because instead of following the far left woke policies of California, which have been disastrous throughout the entire country, that's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris brought to Capitol Hill. The American people have said enough, and now it's time for the people of California to say they've had enough. They need new leadership if they want to avoid these type of disasters in the future.
California politics just has to change. Congressman Byron Donalds, thank
Yep, Byron Donalds and of course Fox and Stuart Varney never missing a chance to bring in things like DEI or woke policies. Imagine what it is, a historic fires in Los Angeles area. And of course, obviously the blame is politicians and woke policies. You know, there was a time when in times of national emergency or disaster, we would unite as a nation. You know, we would help those in need. We would back the local leadership and offer support them. Whatever was needed to be done. You know, but the modern Republican Party has flushed that concept forever. Any disaster that befalls their political opponents is an opportunity to pile on with their bizarre lies and smears. Obviously, that's Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, a black man blaming diversity, equity, inclusion, wokeness, whatever we can come up with to blame anything other than what's really happening, which is incredible fires. You know, it just didn't end with him, though. Of course, you know we've got plenty of examples. You don't have to look far. Look, here's Leo Terrell. If you know Leo Terrell, he's an attorney, and he's actually just been named to a job somewhere buried in the DOJ.
By yelling out climate change, I heard Karen Bass right before the show. It's climate change. It's climate change. That's a lie. It's poor management on the part of the Democrats. They do not look at fire prevention, what you said, basic forestry as a priority. It's climate change. It's EV mandates. It's preventing oil drilling. It's DEI, that DEI, which is so sickening. What does DEI have to do with putting out fires? But you got a city fire chief who thinks DEI is the #1 issue. It's insulting. And you know what? I blame the voters and I blame the media here. Sean, you think the national media is biased? The local media in California kiss the ring of the Democrat Party. They do nothing. They don't ask the right questions.
Woo! Leo's upset. You know, he lives in LA. Obviously, it's everyone's fault except, you know, nature. The funny thing about these guys is they always profess to be Christians and believe in God's will, but somehow it's not God's will when their multi-million-dollar houses have been burning, or little people's houses, you know, average Americans' houses that are burning. But, you know, is constant lies and ranting about policies. And we're going to get into a lot of this in the show. But of course, I can't leave you. We can't start the show without looking at CNN's resident MAGA troll, Scott Jennings, being himself. And unfortunately, picking a time when there's actually people who can talk back a bit to him and that aren't afraid to tell him like it is. Here's Scott Jennings being, well, Scott Jennings.
Signal priorities, because also in California, you might have recall a news story from last year. There was some interest in the fire departments and the firefighters in California. And the interest was that there were too many white men who were firefighters. And we need to have a program in California to make sure we don't have enough white men as firefighters. So we have DEI, we have budget cuts, and yet I'm wondering now, if your house is burning down, how much do you care what color the firefighters are?
You can respond and then
listen. I am so tired. You know what? There was an article that just came out that said that actually the most educated demographic in this country right now is black women. So let me be clear. Because you are a woman, or because I know that some of the right has been sharing these photos of the fact that I believe that the fire chief may be a woman or something, that has nothing to do with it. We are looking at qualifications. What diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been about is saying, you know what? Open this up. Don't just look at the white men. Open it up and recognize that other people can be qualified. And the fact that we want to, at a time when people are dying, decide that a country of immigrants is failing or people are dying because the same very people that built this country, because the last time I checked, y'all didn't say that anything was wrong with the White House. And I can promise you, it was my ancestors that built the White House. So listen, if we have been good enough to build this country, we are good enough to serve and die overseas, we are good enough to serve in other ways. And the fact that people actually decide that they want to engage in public service, whether it's sitting in Congress or whether it's serving on the fire department or the police department, should not be an issue. The fact is, stop trying to act as if only white men are the ones that are capable. Because right now, you're sitting at a table with 3 very capable black women.
You know, when she gets going, it's pretty good. She doesn't always hit all the targets, but she tends to hit a lot of them. And that's the thing, you know, they're trying to blame DEI, but we'll get into the details of all that. But that's CNN for you. Look, it isn't movie stars or rich people losing their homes. I mentioned earlier, it's average people. Matter of fact, the 5 reported deaths we have heard of so far, as per this recording today, were mostly Black Americans, Los Angelinos, who are defending their homes they've lived in for decades, ranch homes, single family homes that they've lived in for decades, and they died defending their homes on their own with garden hoses. That's who's dying. And so the idea that this is a DEI issue or anything else is ridiculous. It isn't a joke. It's a human tragedy. So this week for the show, I do not live in LA. I have a lot of friends that do, and include our friend Ben Mycelis, who's actually had to evacuate himself and has talked about it quite a bit. And I know others will talk about it, but I want to talk a little bit about mostly these Republican, the political side of this whole thing. And then, of course, the human side of it. I've done disaster operations as a soldier in the United States Army. I know the scope of these operations. I know the impact. I know how hard they are, like combat. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that in this week's show. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Welcome on Democracy. I'm Fred Wellman, host of Honors at FP Wellman. You're right here in the Midas Touch Network and the On Democracy channel. Let's talk about this issue. Welcome back. I am Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy, FP Wellman. You're in the right place for the show. I'm still the same guy I was 30 seconds ago. As you can see, I'm getting better from my back surgery, going back on the camera more regularly. We're bringing the On Democracy channel shows back this Sunday. We have On Democracy Sunday with some great guests lined up. Really excited to start sharing with you again. It's great to be back in the fight. I guess timing is everything. Here we are on January 10th. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of politics to be talked about, but I want to talk about a little bit about human things, right? We can't just talk about politics alone. Politics doesn't exist in a vacuum. Politics exists for humans, for Americans. So, and this is a great story about how that affects people, right? The way that our politics, we talk about sometimes jokingly here on the network, or myself, obviously I'm pretty sarcastic sometimes, but there's a human impact to politics. There's human damage and danger when our politicians forget the part where they serve people. I think what I've been most dismayed with, if you look at those clips we start off with, and there's a lot more to come, is that these people are operating in a vacuum, like there aren't victims to all of this, that people aren't dying, that thousands of firemen and women of all colors from across the country are fighting to save property and lives, even as we speak, as I record this show. And it's astonishing to me. It's astonishing the scope of the stupidity, the scope of the distaste for fellow Americans. It sickens me to no end as the event is unfolding. This is even different than the Hurricane Helene, where after the event, Trump showed up and butted his nose into things, even as people were being rescued. This is much worse. This fire is still going. These many fires are going. So we're going to talk about the scope of this. I'm going to show you some images and updates. We're going to talk about the politics of it and the truth of it. And then really, what does it all mean? So it's great to have you here. As always, I appreciate your time. You know, the fires is unbelievable. The images as we're seeing are like few I've seen. I wanted to show you just a few. I mean, look at this. These are firemen. I mean, the images of trying to put these men and women put out these fires. This is broad daylight in LA. Men and women fighting, and the damage is unbelievable. Look at this. I mean, it's hard to imagine, you know, the kind of devastation and the stuff they're up against. With 100-mile-an-hour winds blowing, a single ember blows a mile or more. A single spark can start a fire in another part of town. People are defending their homes, but look at the apocalyptic conditions that these men and women are fighting in. And let me tell you, folks, the devastation is incredible. I'm going to show you pictures of now. Pacific Palisades is where the fire first started. It's up on the hills, a relatively new development, very nice, millions of dollars invested. a lot of controversy around it. Again, the LA hills are known for burning, but these fires, by every measure, everything we've heard so far, started in urban areas, and this is the before picture of Pacific Palisades. Beautiful area up on the hills above the ocean, overlooking LA County, and this is hours later. Just take that in for a second. It's gone. A wipe from the face of the earth, essentially, from a fire that swept through in just hours. It's shocking more people haven't lost their lives. I'm sort of amazed that more people haven't lost their lives in all of this. It's amazing to me that people were able to evacuate on time. I mean, I guess kudos to people who live in California and understand these things. Kudos to the alert system that allowed people time to get out before it was too dangerous. And it's shocking. I've been talking to a lot of friends that live out there. People you may know, Heather Thomas, her house is in danger. Denise Crosby from Star Trek: The Next Generation lost her house she's lived in for 30 years. Friends like Ed Ben Macelis and reporters I know, like Jim Laporte, have had to evacuate their homes at Brentwood and otherwise. Just a shocking amount of damage that goes on and on. And some of the videos are just unbelievable to see. This is a house in Studio City blowing up. Here's a report from the news.
Separate house fires for sure, and as visual as this is, I'm concerned because it is clear if you look behind the house, there goes the front of the facade, the front of the house, a complete collapse now, and now that's going to send embers flying straight up that hill. That is going to send a whole flurry of embers straight up that hill, flying up to the homes above these two houses, and now you have a real situation because already, as I was just about to say, you have a hillside that is on fire, not just these houses. Obviously.
See how it goes? One house becomes the whole hillside from those flames. You see the way the flames are blowing in that image. 100 miles an hour is a lot of wind. That's the La Nina winds we'll talk about more, but that's what they're dealing with. I assure you it's not DEI that's causing that at this moment, okay? It is real world. And then there's the heroes. I mean, as I showed you the firefighter pictures earlier, watch this. You may have seen this clip online, but I got to show it because I'm a former pilot. Obviously, I used to fly helicopters. I was trained in water operations, though to be honest, I used to fly the Black Hawk. If you see behind me right here, my Black Hawk, I was trained in water drop operations. I never participated in a fire operation. We were trained in Hawaii how to do it though. And you have to watch this water drop that occurred. It's a big joke in LA. I've talked to some of my friends that cheering for water drops has become their local sport right now. And here it is. Watch this.
She's back in the Palisades, and I understand that you have another structure burning behind you.
Coming to you again.
Do we have Chelsea? Okay. In the meantime, that was a nice water drop that we just witnessed.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I love that. Hey, wait a minute. Oh, wow. That was a really good water drop. I mean, did you see that? The one plane scooting by, put out that fire. And then, of course, the firefighters are nearby. I can go in and put out the embers. That's how it's done, folks. That's the professionals doing this. And the numbers of those doing that are incredible. But amidst this, as I said, the Republicans want to blame DEI or environmental or whatever it may be. Donald Trump and supported by his cavalcade of propagandists and liars have rolled in, as I mentioned, DEI, water management, environmental policy. Of course, Elon Musk can't resist participating in this, and libs of TikTok, they didn't miss a chance to throw in some hate. Here he is, Elon Musk himself, and libs of TikTok. If you can see it, a post about the racial equity plan to end systemic, institutional, and structural racism, so that every employee to make sure they're racially diverse enough. And then, of course, there he is, Elon Musk being Elon Musk, talking about DEI. They prioritize DEI over saving lives and homes. What horse shit! I mean, the only way to describe that is horse shit. Okay, I'm sorry, folks. I can't be nice about this. Okay. Yes, when in LA, they discovered in LA firefighters, the fire department had something like 7% minorities. And when they did join, they often didn't succeed because of a lot of reasons, from hazing to everything else. So they said, yes, our public services should reflect better the communities we serve. Okay, that's the same with the military. We should be a reflection. If it doesn't, when you have a 30%, 40% of your population is minority, yet your fire department is only 7% minority, that's a sign, folks. It's not they're weak or incapable. There's a sign your system isn't working. So that's what diversity, equity, and inclusion means. It's just what we have to address. Why is there a disproportionate number of one race versus others? And addressing those reasons. Maybe it's testing. Maybe it's a culture. We don't know. But that was their priority. And by the way, it didn't mean they didn't hire perfectly capable people. It just means they also looked at why they didn't represent the community they represent. They don't reflect the community they represent. Why is that wrong? Why shouldn't Black Americans, Black Los Angelinos see Black firefighters? And it sickens me to no end to see this kind of hatred. And let's talk about LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. Oh, before we get to that, here's more of it from our, who else can't miss a chance. But here's a short clip of him, the original himself, Jesse Waters.
So who else is running things? This right here, ladies and gentlemen, this is the leadership of the LA Fire Department. I sure hope they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they fucking do, Jesse. Why wouldn't they? They're perfect capable. Let's give you an example of who they are. That's Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. She's the first woman to lead the department in its history. All these years, over 150 years. A little bio for her. She's a 24-year veteran. Fire chief. She was a paramedic. She was a fire engineer, a fire inspector, a captain, a battalion chief, an assistant chief, a fire marshal, and the deputy chief of the department. When she took her firefighter exam way back in the day, she ranked among the top 50 out of 16,000 applicants that year who took the firefighter's exam. Okay? 50 out of 16,000 applicants. And she rose the ranks to be the first woman fire chief. Yeah, Jesse, I'm positive she's more qualified than you or at anything you've ever done. But that's where we're at. They want to blame it. And they wasn't subtle, folks. The picture of three women, one of them being African-American, that's what they're trying to tell you. So what else is going on? Well, it certainly isn't budget cuts. Okay. It is not the budget cuts. That was a big one we've heard a lot of too, is that there was a budget cut of $17 million from the LA Fire Department. That's actually true. It's even being used in community notes on Twitter to say that the budget cuts are one of the reasons they're struggling. And the truth is that's not even close to the fact. What happened was during negotiations for the firefighters contract, LA Mayor Bass set aside part of the funds for they walled off the budget so they could pass the budget while they negotiated with firefighters. That money was added later and it actually went up $50 million. So not only did the firefighting department's budget not go down, it went up to more than $50 million was set aside. And that's the other thing. The other story I've really enjoyed seeing floating around, and enjoying as a word, is that the reason they're short equipment, you see, is because they sent firefighting equipment to Ukraine. So the guys actually managed to find a way to blame Ukraine for this. And the truth of that story is that, yes, LA did send firefighting boots to Ukraine 4 years ago, boots that were being retired and upgraded and replaced. Not a single firefighter was ever without a boot because they were sent to Ukraine. But this is the kind of crap they'll throw at the wall to make it anything they can do to hurt Gavin Newsom, anything they can do to hurt California. They know, hell, let's be honest. They know Gavin Newsom is a threat politically to Trump at some point. Okay. They know that at some point, Gavin Newsom may end up running for president in 4 years. Who knows, right? They've got to knock him down. But the truth is far different than that. And so we're gonna look at the hard truth. They want to avoid the hard truth. Let's talk about what the hard truth is. We'll take a break for our sponsors right now, and we got some great sponsors this week, as always, and I appreciate them. I know sponsor breaks are always a pain in the neck in these shows, but the fact is we can't do what we do without our sponsors. So let's take a break with our sponsors, and we'll come right back.
Loom is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath, and on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guides to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even your stress management. Not that I have stress in my life. Now, all you have to do is breathe in your lumen first thing in the morning. You'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe in before you go on your workouts, before you go for a meal. You know exactly what's going on in your body in real time, and Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. So look, your metabolism is your body's engine. We all know this. You probably learned this in health class, right? It's how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. I've been tracking macros and nutrients and nutrition for years as I try to maintain my health as I age. Because your metabolism is the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, better moods even, if you will. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health right in your hand. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Fred. You'll get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Fred for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring our show this week. We really appreciate you. And man, it's a great device. It's fall. I mean, finally in Missouri, it's fall. I mean, I'm wearing long sleeves in November. So, you know, you need your own wardrobe full of comfortable and coordinated pieces for a layered look in this time of year, but it need warmth as well as being extra breathable. You can't, I've always despised that starchy kind of stiff workwear. It's not optimal when you need to ensure you're on your busiest days, right? I mean, important days like we've been dealing with right now in politics. With the Roam Commuter Collection, your clothing looks professional, it performs like activewear, and it feels like total comfort. And I love the fact you don't have to dry clean it, it's all washable. Now, seasons change, and we all change. It's time that men's closets change too. And Roam's Commuter Collection is the most comfortable, breathable, and truly versatile set of products known to man or known to me, that's for darn sure. Now, Roam has premium pieces to elevate every occasion. Talking about the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos, and blazers, all boosted with the functional performance properties that I love, making them comfortable and let me go anywhere. Now, Roam's signature technical fabrics stretch in every direction. They breathe, they fight odor and the elements, and they effortlessly work everywhere so you can stay calm and collected. Even life takes unexpected turns like it has for me recently. Now it's time for unparalleled comfort without all the hassle. Now each piece in Roam's Commuter Collection is made to coordinate and layer for an instantly elevated look. Collection also features that wrinkle release technology we've mentioned before. 100% machine washable, so it looks good that easy. I really love the fact it's true with their one and only Gold Fusion anti-odor technology. For more wears between washes, you can hang it back up and let it air out, and you'll be fresh and clean all day long. You know, I love fall. I love fall dressing. I admit it. I love my quarter zips. I love my layers. Changing seasons are an optimal time for new beginnings, and the Commuter Collection's premium look and very adaptable design is what I love the most. It's easy for me as I'm a very busy man, and the Commuter Collection works all day for me no matter what I'm doing, and it stays looking good the whole time. Frankly, it very much fits my lifestyle, which is the most important thing. Now, the Commuter Collection can get you through any workday, straight into whatever comes next. Head to roan.com/Fred. Use promo code FRED to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/Fred and use code FRED. For me, I think it's time for you to embody your most confident self with the clothes that fit your lifestyle. Roan's Commuter Collection.
And we're back. Thank you, our sponsors. So look, as I was saying before the break, they want to avoid everything with the hard truth. They want a hard truth. They want to blame DEI. They want to blame budget. They want to blame environmental policies. The fact is, this is the perfect example of climate change in action. Okay, this is what climate change does. LA has actually had a very good rainy season these last couple of years. The reservoirs are full, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But LA has what they have had, and what climate change looks like in Los Angeles and California is extremely good rainy seasons and then extremely dry seasons. Each of those has become more extreme. So what it means is during that rainy season, undergrowth, grass, small trees grow like crazy. And then when you get that extreme dry season, all that turns into tinder, right? That's the problem. It's not an even distribution of water throughout the year. It's very wet and then it's extremely dry. That is climate change in action. That means that much of the foothills, much of the mountains, even just people's yards and the lots between them or unoccupied lots are tinderboxes waiting to explode. There's no way to manage all. We're talking hundreds of thousands of acres of land that would have to be mowed and then remove all the grass, because all you're doing is mowing it down into tinder. The whole idea you can somehow forest management that away isn't true. It means that it's dangerous tinder. Then you add La Nina winds, which are also higher. If you understand, I'm not going to get the science of it, because as you guys have heard from me before, if you follow the show, I am not a scientist. I actually just play a journalist on TV. The fact is that La Nina is a coastal wind coming off the coast, extremely high winds that occurs every few years. This year's a La Nina year. What that translated to was, as I mentioned earlier, 100-mile-an-hour winds, hurricane force winds, picking up these fires. If you've seen some that you saw it in that one video, these videos of the winds just literally blowing fire sideways, sparks flying hundreds of feet, if not miles away, literally a hurricane of water. The storage tanks they have are full, but they aren't designed for fighting entire cities on fire. So where you see some of these people blaming like not enough water or the fact they haven't set enough water, that's not the case. Matter of fact, here's the LA fire chief actually discussing the issue with the Pacific Palisades fire, and she talks about how it all plays out and why there's not enough water, as they've been accused of in the different fire hydrants.
To be able to deploy the aerial assets more when the wind is dying down, but there are reports that there is no water in the hydrants in some of the areas battling this fire. But city officials are saying and telling CNN that there's no water shortage. So what's happening?
Well, I did get a little education on water supply systems for the Palisades. I didn't know a lot about that. But what it sounds like is they've got these 3 massive tanks that they use their residential water, and each tank has 1 million gallons in it. And so those are built for residential use, and that usually supplies the city of Palisades wells. But they're not designed for urban wildland firefighting for 15 hours straight. So you can imagine all the water that pulled out, because they're not part of a main system because of the terrain, because of the steep hills and the windy roads and things like that. That is what works for that community, but they aren't really built for that type of excessive use. So as soon as that started dwindling, I think it was Department of Water Power came in and they helped filled up those tanks, and they're really trying to pull that all together and get those hydrants all working again. And the ones way up need more pressure, need more volume. So it took a bit, but they got everything back online.
They got everything back online. And let's look, you don't have to be a scientist or a hydrologist to understand that the way water pressure works. If your own home, I mean, how many of us grew up like, okay, I'm going to date myself. I'm an elder Gen Xer. Okay. I'm the first year of Gen X. But how many of us grew up in homes where if 2 people were taking showers at the same time, dad was shaving and somebody flushed the toilet, the shower pressure went down, and maybe you got either scalded or frozen because not enough cold water was flowing. That's water pressure. Okay. So, those older houses, especially, that was a problem, not in our modern houses, but I definitely am dating myself there. There's a lot of screaming when somebody flushed a toilet when you're in the shower. Well, it's no different than fire hydrants, folks. Okay. When the fire hydrant, you turn them all on at once, guess what? There's not enough pressure. When you open every valve for an entire city, trying to fight fires across an entire city. You saw the picture of Pacific Palisades. There's not enough pressure. So the fire hydrants will be dry. It's not there's not water, there's no pressure. And to say otherwise is either a blatant lie, or you're stupid, or, as I mentioned, you're just trying to hurt people in the middle of a fight. But none of that matters to Donald Trump, who blames, anything he can do to blame anybody but himself or the Republicans, or anything. Here's Donald Trump explaining why there's not enough water in California.
On California, Mr. President, during the pandemic, you often said that you didn't believe that you should bail out blue states that you believe were being mismanaged. Given your criticism of Governor Gavin Newsom, are you willing to work with him, and do you believe that federal aid should be provided to California for as long as it takes?
Well, it's very sad, because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done.
Okay, the smelt. Okay, the smelt, little fish. The smelt they're talking about is in Northern California. Northern California. I know this is weird and geography can be hard sometimes, but Northern California is in the north up near San Francisco, okay? And LA is in Southern California and one of our largest states, by the way. That's a really long way, okay? And the rivers don't run between the two of them. They go out to the ocean, the Pacific Ocean coming off the mountains. But this is the kind of crap he throws at the wall blaming smelt, okay? Okay, it isn't smelt, okay? And there's plenty of water, actually. I mean, actually, here's a bit of here. Governor Newsom had to put out a discussion his press office put out. Because the high water demand, pump stations at lower elevations did not have enough pressure to refill tanks at higher elevations. The ongoing fire hampered the ability of crews to access the pumps to supplement, and they used water towers to supply water, a common tactic. Broadly speaking, there is no water shortage in Southern California right now, despite Trump's claims that could open some imaginary spigot, which is my favorite one. He talks all the time about how Gavin Newsom needs to open the spigot. The spigot. It's almost like he believes there's actually some sort of a water spigot up north. Water reliability, water supply, things are looking pretty solid, says the head of the department. Again, it comes down to a matter of there's just not enough pressure. When there's a fire, pipes get damaged. When the electricity goes away, pumps don't work because they don't have electricity or backup generators. That's how big this conflagration is, and it's damaging everything. But let's not discuss that. Let's spend all of our time blaming people. It's kind of sad actually to see President Biden was out there. I believe he's actually already in the area visiting family. He appeared with Gavin Newsom, immediately declared a disaster relief, didn't ask any questions about how, why. It's just a very different. Before we get to that, here's Biden.
Quite the contrary, Mr. President. First of all, that major disaster declaration be approved. Next level appreciation on behalf of all the residents here in Southern California. As the chief said, we had pre-positioned assets this weekend in anticipation of these weather events. The complexity of multiple fires, the likelihood these weather events, this wind event continue over the course of the next many days, impacts of over 1,000 structures already that have been destroyed, 100,000+ people that have been evacuated, lives lost, traditions, lifestyles, places torn asunder. This means the world to us, and just publicly, because I think this is important, the president happened to be in the region, in town. It's impossible for me to express the level of appreciation and cooperation we receive from the White House and this administration. So on behalf of all of us, Mr. President, thank you for being here, and not just being here today. Thank you for being here since the minute of this incident, when there was a 10-acre fire less than 24 or so hours ago. Deep gratitude. It's astounding what's happening.
Yeah, it's a very different approach, isn't it, than Trump? He's already there, supporting the people, meeting the firefighters, and all. And Newsom, look, every politician can be criticized, but to have to deal with all this, deal with these political attacks and these right-wing attacks and the news attacks and the people online attacking him at the same time they're trying to fight fires. I had to give him credit for putting up with it. Here he's discussing when he was asked by CNN.
Even asked this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, it's people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools, families completely torn asunder, churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden, and he had the backs of every single person in this community. He didn't play politics, didn't try to divide any of us.
Finally, your message.
Yeah, did play politics, did try to divide any of us. Just getting the job done in the middle of a disaster. Isn't that unique? I mean, so traditional. I do bust on President Biden and his administration for their norms and traditions. They're adhering so relentlessly to norms and traditions. But sometimes, yeah, it's right. You support people when they're in danger. You give them help. I mean, they actually put out this. This is the water supply issue. There's plenty of water. Okay, Southern California's reservoirs are full. Okay. It's just when you deal with a fire, it's going to change. So let's talk about dealing with the fire and how much they're dealing with. They put out some numbers yesterday. It's a massive effort. Now, I have participated in disaster relief operations, not necessarily during as it unfolds, but I did participate in, for example, Hurricane Hugo way back, again, dating myself, flying scout helicopters then back in 1980, 84? No, yeah. God, I'm getting old. Dealing with relief, or 89, dealing with hurricane relief in South Carolina. These are massive logistical efforts. It takes hundreds of thousands. If you heard Governor Newsom, actually, a little thing you may have heard in his talk with President Biden was that they actually did pre-position fire assets and National Guard assets when they saw the weather forecast. So they knew this. To say they were caught flat-footed is a flat-out lie. They had pre-positioned equipment. But once those winds start blowing and the fires start setting off, things get ugly fast. Here's some of the numbers they put out. They have over 8,000 plus personnel fighting these fires from across the country. There's many teams coming in from across the country. There are 600 plus of the California National Guard participating. 991 fire engines, bulldozers, and water tenders are participating. That's a staggering number. And over 40 helicopters plus fixed-wing aircraft. Matter of fact, a fixed-wing aircraft came in from Canada, which sadly, we have to report this morning, ran into a private drone flying around, hit one of the firefighting aircraft, and now it's grounded. Folks, stay out of the area, for God's sake. You really don't need those pictures for yourself right now. Just let people put it out. And then on top of that, they've been putting up updates. Look at these numbers they're putting up with what they're dealing with. The Palisades fire, this is last night, folks. Okay, this is probably 24 hours old by the time you see it. But they're tracking the Palisades fires being put out. They got 4 fires. A Hearst fire is being contained. The Lydia fire is doing really well. That was as of last night, 75% at 10 p.m. last night. The Kenneth fire in Southern California, 35% contained. Think about that for a second. They have all these fires going at once in one place. It's incredibly intense. So we've talked a lot about the politics and the attacks and the outrageous play that's going on. But, I don't want to always just be angry, okay? You guys know me well enough by now. I don't want us to always just be running around being pissed off, because there's good. And the good is the good people who are in there defending their neighbors, taking care of others. I spoke to one of my prior guests on the Sunday show, Heather Thomas. Her house is right in the middle of all this. The firefighters there and the police are walled off the region so people can't get in, but they've checked on her home to make sure it was safe, and they actually made sure her sprinklers were running for her. We're hearing stories like that. The horrible story of an actress I mentioned, Denise Crosby, lost her home. I mean, you saw maybe on Twitter that Mark Hamill had to evacuate his home again. It's a shocking series of events, plus average people. So what do we do? Well, as that famous philosopher Mr. Rogers once said, right? You got to look for the helpers. And who greater helper than we've had? One of the greatest heroes of our modern American life is Chef Jose Andres. Of course, his World Kitchen is already there. And here's Chef Andres. Watch.
There's a lot of different fire departments. We saw Glendale. I see San Gabriel, San Juan Obispo. So this is like a gathering place for all the trucks. They come there and they do the refueling. Take a look how many they go up the highway. More fire trucks coming. There is one fire up there they have under control. Some of the guys didn't sleep all night, but that's the way it works. They're heroes. They keep coming, taking a break. We are setting up here the Wolf Central Kitchen truck. We feed them from here, sandwiches, fruit, water. They need to drink. These guys are from Atascadero. You see a lot of different firefighter units from different towns. That's the way we, the people, teamwork. And as we have had food coming, we may have tonight food right here until hopefully they take care of these in Palisades, this fire up there. It's behind my back.
We come together. He said it himself, right? He just an amazing man. Just got the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Biden last week, and he's already in LA supporting people in the fires. So I would recommend maybe a donation to World Central Kitchen. I'm not sure they've ever wasted $1. They're in Gaza. They're in Ukraine. Again, he said it key. We come together. We work together. That's what makes us American. When these people call themselves patriots and wrap themselves in the flag and then turn right around and attack fellow Americans who are up their asses in disasters. The people you saw early in those photos, the firefighters, I mean, just fighting for people's lives and their property, what they're seeing as they're dealing with, I mean, these the people they're smearing, these men and women. I don't know what that person looks like underneath that firefighting equipment. I don't know if he's black or white or a woman. I don't know if he's gay or straight. Doesn't matter. In times like this, real Americans like us, we don't fight, we don't attack, we don't smear, we come together. And it just goes to show how un-American, unpatriotic, and awful these people really are. We're going to hold them accountable on the On Democracy channel. We're going to hold them accountable on Midas Touch, and you and I are going to hold them accountable. Expose them to the light. It's funny how often I'll be on Blue Sky. My Blue Sky handles on the screen right now, and my fellow liberals will say, or progressives will attack us, saying, "Oh, they got what they deserve," or "You should ignore them, Fred. Don't show videos or clips of them." No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show them. They need to be exposed. These places they're hiding on OAN and Newsmax, saying awful things about fellow Americans. You need to know it. You need to never lose your anger in that sense. Okay, we can't live on anger forever, but never lose the perspective that there's very evil people trying to take over our country, and we're going to expose them to the daylight. So we'll keep up the fight here. God bless the people in California. God, I'm praying for you. I'm not a big praying man, but I'm praying for their safety, praying for my friends, hoping for all the best for you out there, whatever you believe in. If nothing else, send some money out that way. We'll start looking for some charities you can give to that are supporting the people who've lost everything. They're estimating already over $50 billion in lost property. People lost everything. Their entire homes were burned to the ground to ashes. I'm not showing those clips because it's too heartbreaking even for me. It looks like a war zone. Let's support our fellow Americans. Let's attack those who dare to attack them while they're in the middle of it. California can fight their fight. We can fight for them. And with that, I'm Fred Wellman. Look, I hope you enjoy the show every week. I love being here on the Midas Touch Network with you. If you like this, be sure to subscribe to our own, the On Democracy channel as well. On Democracy channel on YouTube. We've got a great new Sunday show. We're back this week as I'm recovering from my surgery, and my producer JJ is returning from settling down from his move. We'll be live Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern. We got some great guests lined up, including Phil Williams from Nashville and others, some elected officials, to discuss today's issues and have a laugh too. That's our On Democracy Sunday show. You'll love it. That's On Democracy channel. Be sure to subscribe. If you love podcasts still, you rather get this audio. That's why I try to read things everywhere. We're everywhere. Apple. We're on, oh my God, Spotify, Amazon, all of them. You can find us there. But what I really want you to do right now, since you're sitting here talking to me, give me a like, give us a share, subscribe to Midas Touch, subscribe to On Democracy. Talk about it, and most importantly, leave a comment. I love your comments. I think we had over 2,000 comments last week. I try to keep up with them all. That's a lot, but I'll do my best. Say hello. That's so important for us to get the attention we need to our news. Midas Touch, of course, is reporting it's the #1 YouTube news channel yet again. We're proud to be a part of that, but you are the key. Our community is the key for both Midas Touch and On Democracy. We love our democracy warriors. Keep up the good fight. I am Fred Wellman. You're here on the On Democracy channel and Midas Touch. We'll see you again next week.